Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another edition of Richard's Rock Rambles. So today on our blues rock journey, we're going to have a look at a gentleman who's been pretty prolific. And if you consider that he's only really released stuff from the year 2000 up until today, he's pretty much released an album a year, a studio album that is. He's also released a ton of live stuff. He's also collaborated with so many different people, different side projects. I'm talking about Joe Bonamassa. And I think that's how you pronounce his surname. Having watched a couple of his videos and himself saying his name, I think that's how he said. I always used to say Bonamassa, but I believe it's Bonamassa. Nevertheless, amazing guitarist, great singer as well, good songwriter, and has released some stellar albums since 2000. He was born on the 8th of May 1977, which makes him 44. And as you'll see, in those years that he's been around, he's been pretty busy. In New Hartford in New York is where he was born. And at the tender age of 11, or I think 12, he opened for none other than B.B. King. Yeah. So I reckon if B.B. King thinks you're good enough to open for him, you've got something. Obviously a child prodigy, amazing on the guitar at a very early age. His dad was very supportive. I think his dad worked in a music store, so that was a good grounding to have. And so at the age of 12 he opens for B.B. King. He also had an early band called Bloodline, and the reason for the name of that band is that the other guys in the band were sons of well-known artists. So you had the son of Miles Davis, you had the son of Robbie Krieger from The Doors, and you had the son of Berry Oakley from the Allman Brothers. So pretty good pedigree. I'm not sure if they released an album. I think so. I'm not sure if it's still available though. But that was his sort of start in the band Bloodline before he went solo. As I said, he's got other side projects. He's also been part of the band Black Country Communion, which features Jason Bonham, Glenn Hughes, Derek Sherinian, and of course Joe Bonamassa. They're more of a sort of a hard rock blues band, but heavier than what he does on his solo stuff. And they've made 4 albums, really good albums. If you haven't checked out Black Country Communion yet, check them out. They're probably one of the best sort of classic rock sounding bands of modern times. He's also done 3 albums with a band called Rock Candy Funk Party. And as you can tell by the name, that's more of a funk band, sort of a 70s funk sound, really good stuff as well. Certainly get you up and dancing. So he's done I think he just plays guitar in that band. I don't think he does much in the way of vocals. And then he's also done 3 albums with the great Beth Hart, that fantastic singer. She's been around for quite a while. She had the Beth Hart band back in the day. And her and Joe Bonamassa have collaborated, and they work pretty well. I think the last one they did was called Black Coffee, which I think was a cover. And so he's done 3 albums with her. His main influences come from the British blues scene. So we'll be talking about guys like Clapton, Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac, John Mayall, and Gary Moore. And in fact, he has, I'm going to show you later on, a small section of the many guitars that he has, because he's an avid guitar collector. In fact, whenever he tours, he goes and he tries to find out hard to find guitars. He's always collecting stuff, amps and guitars and what have you. So I think he's had Gary Moore's guitar, he's had Peter Green's guitar. I think at one stage he also played on Rory Gallagher's guitar. So as you can see, quite an avid collector. He also mentions as his main influence Stevie Ray Vaughan, and you can hear that in his playing. I think the only thing with Joe Bonamassa, he's an amazing guitarist, don't get me wrong. He's got an incredible technical style. He can do almost anything on the guitar. He just doesn't have his own sound yet. I think he'll get to it, or maybe he has. I'm just not hearing it. But there's no sort of signature sound yet for Joe Bonamassa. There is quite a bit of Stevie Ray Vaughan, though, in his sound. I have a few of his solo albums here, quite a number, but he's made many albums. As I said, almost one a year. So I just want to mention some of the other ones that he's done. In 2000 was his first one called A New Day Yesterday, which was actually a Jethro Tull track. So he covers that on the album. They were also quite an influence because the early Tull stuff was quite blues based. And that was in 2000. So It's Like That from 2002. Blues Deluxe 2003. You can see the early stuff is still very much entrenched in the blues. He has gone into other directions subsequently, but the early stuff is very much blues based. Had to Cry Today, which I think was a Blind Faith track. Slow Gin, that was from 2007. Had to Cry Today was from 2004. Different Shades of Blue from 2014. Blues of Desperation from 2016. Redemption from 2018. And the most recent being Royal Tea, which came out last year. There's also a DVD coming out that was filmed. I think it was the last show before COVID had the shutdown. And they filmed that show, and that's being released, I think, next month, June. So that should be worth checking out as well. There are some live albums as well. A New Day Yesterday live from 2002. And Live from Nowhere in particular from 2008. Those are just some of the live albums. There are a bunch of DVDs as well. I'm just going to mention a few of them to you. There's a set called Tour de Force, full DVD set, which I will show you. I don't have all four, but I'll show you the ones that I have just now. Live at Hammersmith. Muddy Wolf at Red Rocks, that famous venue in the States. And that's a really great that's with a full horn section as well. In a lot of his music, he uses a full horn section, which just sort of embellishes the sound and fills it out quite a bit. And there's another one called... Yes, the new one is called Now Serving Royalty Live from the Ryman, which is also a famous venue in the States. So as I said, that'll be coming out next month. Released June the 11th, in fact. And that was the final show of 2020 before COVID said, that's it, guys. No more concerts until who knows when. Although I think in the States at the moment, there are a few concerts that are happening. Obviously, the crowds are a lot smaller and there's all the COVID protocols in place and what have you. But it looks as though things are starting to get to some sort of normality. So hopefully Joe Bonamassa will be able to do his full concerts again. Because, that's a large part of his life is on the road. And these days with album sales not really meaning much to an artist, you need to get out there to sell your product. So let's jump into the CDs that I have. I also have a few other things to show you. Get to that in a minute. So the first one I want to show you this is from 2006, and this was the first album to feature Kevin Shirley as producer. Kevin Shirley will go on to be a staple in the Joe Bonamassa camp. In fact, he's been his producer for the last 8 or 9 albums, maybe more, DVDs. So he's pretty much part of the team. And there is actually quite a strong South African contingent within Joe Bonamassa stuff. So you've got Kevin Shirley as producer. There's also a guy by the name of Anton Fig, well-known drummer in the States, also from South Africa. And Blondie Chaplin has also played with Joe Bonamassa. Blondie Chaplin was part of the Flames in South Africa back in the day. So the first one I want to show you is one called You and Me by Joe Bonamassa. As I said, 2006. Great album. Some really excellent guitar work on on all of his albums. The guitar work is just stellar. There's nothing shoddy about his playing. Some of the main tracks on here: High Water Everywhere, that was a big hit. Bridge to Better Days, that was a hit. And they do a really great version of the Zeppelin track T for One, which was from Presence, and that's a blues number. And they do a really good version on here. And I just want to get hold of the name of the singer. So this is produced by Kevin Shirley, like I said. The guy who was on vocals here was really good. To pull off Robert Plant is never easy. Vocals on T for One, Doug Henthorn. I think he also sings on a couple of his other albums. So this is a good one to get. The album that came out after this, called Slow Gin, which I don't have to show you, but I did mention, is also a really excellent album. I think if you're looking for starting points, if you haven't collected him before, Slow Gin, or maybe You and Me. Or some of the early ones as well. A New Day Yesterday, the very first album, just to see how he starts out and progresses and adds on to his sound. The next one is The Ballad of John Henry. And this one came out in 2009 on J&R Adventures. That's his own label. That's another thing about Joe Bonamassa. His business model is amazing. They are really on top of everything. And he hasn't had any bad dealings with record companies because they know he runs a tight ship. And I think these days that's what you need. So on here, Ballad of John Henry, Stop, Last Kiss. That Ballad of John Henry, by the way, that was a really big hit for him. A really great riff in that track, quite a heavy riff as well. He can get heavy in some of his albums, not to the point of being metal, but pretty heavy hard rock, along with the blues stuff. Happier Times, Feeling Good, Funkier Than a Mosquito's Tweeter. I love the title of that track. The Great Flood, From the Valley, and As the Crow Flies. So there's 12 tracks on here. There's Joe sitting with his guitar, one of his many guitars. I'll show you later on and be quite amazed at the amount of guitars this guy has. There's another shot of him there. Comes with lyrics and what have you. Quite a cool album. And he always has good musos playing with him. I think Anton Fig's on here on drums as well. There's another guy by the name of Tal Bergman on guitar, on drums. I think he's more of the touring drummer. Then they did an album, they recorded this I think this was in Greece. It's called Black Rock. This is the limited edition deluxe version. That's the album there. And it's got quite a nice booklet inside. There's a nice photograph of Greece over there. And there's one of Joe. This guy's a seriously hard worker in the studio and on the road. He's quite a perfectionist. Here he is with some of the other guys. And he often has guests on his albums as well. John Hyatt's on here. And that track's called I Know a Place. Jeff Beck is on here. No, hang on. They do a Jeff Beck track called Spanish Boots. That's an early Jeff Beck track. Bird on a Wire, the Leonard Cohen track. So there's a few covers on here. Look Over Yonder's Wall, Athens to Athens. That's one of his own tracks on here, which is also really good. Black Rock, another one to check out. Then we move on to 2011 for the album Dust Bowl. This is one of my sort of latter-day Bonamassas that I really enjoy. Slow Train, Dust Bowl, Tennessee Plates with John Hyatt. He appears on this album. The Meaning of the Blues, Black Lung, Heartache. That was a good track off here. And there's also a track on here with Glenn Hughes being part of Black Country Communion. He's said to come sing on my album. So they do a track called Heartbreaker, which is the free number, which is a really good version as well. So that's Dust Bowl. Then there's an album which I got from the Classic Rock magazine. They used to have these special editions, and I got Driving Towards the Daylight. And this is from 2012. This has got some really nice photographs inside of the guys. I think Blondie Chaplin is on here. Touring Band and Crew tells you all about the band and who's in the band. Yeah, this is a really good album. Just want to see if there's anything else I can show you. Oh, at the back of this, he gives you a lowdown of some of his favorite guitars, which is quite interesting. So there's a Martin acoustic, there's a couple of Les Pauls. Yeah, there's another Les Paul. He's kind of like a guitar geek. And he has this place called the Nerdville where he keeps all his guitars and amps, and he's into collecting vintage cars and stuff like that. So, yeah, quite the collector. Good album, this. Dislocated Boy was a good track. Stones in My Pathway. Driving Towards the Daylight. Excuse me. Who's Been Talking, Lonely Town, Lonely Street, New Coat of Paint. There's also a track here with Jimmy Barnes, the Australian singer, Too Much Ain't Enough Love. Nice album. So then we go on to some of his live stuff. Those are all the studio albums that I have. I have mentioned quite a few that I don't have. As a collector, you never stop collecting, so I've still got a way to go. This one is a little different. This is Joe Bonamassa, An Acoustic Evening at the Vienna Opera House. And there's an accompanying DVD which goes with this, which I'll show you just now. And this is quite a different lineup. There's quite a large group of people on stage. You've got strings, you've got the whole 9 yards. There he is with all his acoustic guitars. He's a really accomplished acoustic player as well as an electric player. He tells you all the different guitars he uses at the back as well, which is quite cool if you're a guitar geek. So you've got people on glockenspiels, you've got Irish banjos, you've got fiddles, you've got mandolas, you've got the whole 9 yards here. Very different sound, obviously, to electric. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the picture of the guys there. So that's the live album. And there are a number of live albums, but this one is interesting because it's a different take. The 3 albums that he's done with Beth Hart, I have 2. I mean, she's just an incredible vocalist, and the 2 of them together is a really good mix because he also sings, and of course his great guitar work. And the first one was called Don't Explain, which was that one there. And the standout tracks on here are Chocolate Jesus, Your Heart Is As Black As the Night, which is an amazing slow blues number, which is really highlights her vocal prowess. Don't Explain, I'd Rather Go Blind, that's a cover. Great Etta James track. I'll Take Care of You, Ain't No Way. See if there's anything I can show you inside the 2 of them. There we go. There's Beth Hart over there and Joe Bonamassa. Amazing singer. She's got such power, and I think of modern day singers, she's right up there for me, along with people like Ann Wilson from Heart. They also did an album in, when was this, 2013, also produced by Kevin Shirley, so you can see Kevin Shirley gets involved in pretty much everything Joe Bonamassa does. This one is called Seesaw. Also a great album, bit of blues, bit of R&B, bit of soul, bit of rock, so there's quite a bit of jazz as well. Nutbush City Limits, a great version of that on here, and her voice is perfect for that song, very powerful. A Sunday Kind of Love, Seesaw, and Strange Fruit, the quite hectic song, that the lyrics to that, the Billie Holiday track, and she does a great version on here. And this is a double disc, which comes with a DVD as well. So this is sort of a deluxe version, if you can get a hold of it. So then I just want to show you some of the live stuff on DVD. That's the live at the Vienna Opera House I showed you earlier on the CD. This is the DVD version. It comes with a nice booklet and all the rest. And it's quite a long concert as well, produced by Kevin Shirley. And this was in 2013. That's the Blu-ray. And then 4 nights in the UK, 4 concerts on 4 nights, 4 consecutive nights. So that was quite hectic for him. And he had different bands playing different lineups with him. So he had a power trio setup, which I think had Carmen Rojas on bass. He's been with him for quite a while, and Anton Fig. And then he had a slightly bigger band for other concerts. So you have him tour de force live in London, the Royal Albert Hall. There's that one, which is great. Last Kiss, Dust Bowl, Midnight Blues, Who's Been Talking. And this was the slightly bigger band as opposed to a power trio. All of these are essential to get hold of. Live at the Borderline. So this was the power trio. I quite enjoy this one. Very intimate setting, not a huge crowd. I Know Where I Belong, Spanish Boots, the Jeff Beck track. Pain and Sorrow, Happier Times, Burning Hell, Don't Burn Down That Bridge. Are You Experienced, the Hendrix track. Great version on here. I mean, Bonamassa really can do Hendrix to a T. There's some bonus features on here as well, behind the scenes, making a tour de force. I think you get it with each one of these. And the last one I have is the Shepherd's Bush Empire. Also a different lineup, different tracks. There's no duplications of tracks here, which is also cool. On each one you get different tracks listings. The Great Flood, Lonesome Road Blues, further on up the road. I think this one's more blues based. And they all come with really great, and they even have, this one has 3D glasses. So I must say, with Joe Bonamassa, he really gives the fans value for money. And some great live shots of Joe. And you get this with all four of them. Yeah, so these are really worth checking out. I think you can either buy it as a box set, which comes in a little amp, which is quite cool, or you can buy them separately. I was very lucky. A dear friend of mine who's no longer with us, he sent me these. I was very lucky to get hold of these. The only one I don't have is, I think, the live at Hammersmith. Yes, the Hammersmith one I don't have, so I must still get hold of that. Then there's also a live DVD with Beth Hart, live in Amsterdam, whether you can see the two of them, how well they work together on stage. It's quite a long concert as well, produced by Kevin Shirley again, 114 minutes long, and there's some bonus stuff on here as well. Can't Let Go, Close to My Fire, Something Got a Hold on Me, Seesaw, Strange Fruit. It's an excellent DVD. And the Blu-ray version especially, the picture quality and sound quality is great. A couple of other ones I have, live at the Beacon Theatre, and this goes back to 2012. So you can see this guy's seriously busy. He never stops. And the Beacon Theatre is a famous theatre in the States. I think the Allman Brothers have played there a few times. Sorry, I have a very dry throat this morning. Some live shots for you. There's the great Paul Rogers, and he comes on and does a few numbers. He always has guests on his... he does Fire and Water, the free number, so obviously that's Paul Rogers. Walk in My Shadow, he sings on there as well. And I think John Hyatt comes on stage as well and sings I Know a Place on here. So that's one worth checking out. One of his first live DVDs, this was in 2009, live at the Royal Albert Hall. Now, if you can play at the Royal Albert Hall, you're doing something right, because they don't invite just anybody. And on here, he had Eric Clapton come on as a guest guitarist. And I think for Joe, that was quite a big moment, because he sort of looked up to Eric Clapton as one of his idols from the days of being with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. This is a double disc. And there's also a really nice booklet that goes with this. See if I can show you one with... There's him and the band with Anton Fig and the rest of the guys. Horn section as well. And there's Eric Clapton over there. So I think this was one of his big moments as an artist, where you kind of know that you've made it when you get Eric Clapton to come and play with you. Then I have a very early DVD of Joe Bonamassa. This is long before the days of Kevin Shirley and the J&B management and all the rest of it. This is when he was still finding his feet. This was a kind of a power trio, and this was recorded live at Rockpalast, that famous German series where everybody's played, from Rory Gallagher to Miles Davis to you name it. So that's Joe Bonamassa. You can see he's a little different there, longer hair, bit more body weight than what he looks like now. These days he goes out in a suit and sort of sunglasses. This was a very different Joe Bonamassa. Not much in the way of a booklet, just the DVD. The tracks on here: New Day Yesterday, Blues Deluxe, Burning Hell, Had to Cry Today, Heart of the Sunrise, Starship Trooper, which is a Yes track. So there's, I think it's Yes. I hope I got that right. And there's quite a few covers on here, so you can see he hasn't got much of his own stuff yet. So this is early days power trio stuff. Then the last thing I want to show you is, as I mentioned, my friend Paul Knott, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He sent me such a lot of Joe Bonamassa stuff, and yeah, I really Have to thank him up there for that because, yeah, a lot of the stuff's quite expensive over here. A lot of it's imported. So in South Africa, if you want to buy them, you're going to have to pay. And he went to the concert in 2009 and he sent me this T-shirt, the Royal Albert Hall T-shirt. And that must have been an incredible concert to see. And he also sent me this very nice program, Joe Bonamassa, The Road to the Royal Albert Hall. So it tells you all about his journey, how he got to the concert. And the one photograph I have to show you, and this was in 2009, so he's collected a lot since this time. This is just a small collection of the guitars that he has and the amps. If you can see that, I mean, it's insane. The guy has, I reckon, easily now over 200 Les Pauls. I don't know how many Strats he's got. He's got the lot. Gibson SGs, acoustic guitars, and a whole bunch of amps. So yeah, this is like a serious collector. Apart from being an amazing guitarist and artist, he's also a guitar geek. So there we go, Joe Bonamassa. Lots to check out, lots to collect, lots to listen to. If you haven't yet discovered him, you're missing out. A really humble guy as well, which is another thing I like about him. You know, he hasn't got the whole rock star persona thing going. Keeps his feet on the ground. Has a really good business model, as I've mentioned. He's on top of things, especially now with COVID. You know, everything's live streaming and what have you. He's jumped into that. He has a series on YouTube called Live from Nerdville, where he interviews well-known artists and other people. I think this week he's doing Alice Cooper. He's done Samantha Fish. He's done, he's done everybody. Todd Rundgren and people you wouldn't think would be associated with Joe Bonamassa. And he's got a really nice, relaxed interviewing style. And I think a lot of the artists are quite happy being interviewed by another musician, which gives it a different take. So check him out. Lots to collect. And somebody that I've enjoyed for many years. Very prolific. I think he's busy with a new album. He's busy with an album almost every year. So he doesn't shortchange his fans. So there we go. If you enjoyed this, please guys, like and subscribe down below. Any comments are more than welcome. Have yourselves a good week. And I'll catch you soon with another chapter in the blues rock journey. Not too sure who it is yet, but regardless, it'll be worthwhile. See you soon. Cheers.